In today's video, I'll be showing you how I installed a new light bar on my 2007 Toyota Tacoma. I've been playing around with the idea of installing a light bar, or spotlight, on my truck for a couple of years. So when Auxbeam reached out to see if I would like to test out their light bar, I jumped at the opportunity. Auxbeam has a ton of different lighting products, including light bars, headlights, accessory lights, and auxiliary switch panels. From what I can tell, they are one of the best values when it comes to automotive lighting. I didn't want to install a huge, obvious light bar, so I opted for a smaller one that I could hide in my front bumper. To get started, we are going to need to remove the front grille. On these Gen 2 Tacomas, this is extremely easy. There are two pop tabs on either side and two 10mm bolts in the middle. Once the bolts and pop tabs are removed, you can easily pull off the grille. Here's a closer look at the bumper bolts, where we will eventually install the brackets that will hold the light bar. Before we go any further, we need to unbox our light bar. This is a 32-inch 5D Pro LED light bar. Auxbeam says this is a 3300 lumen light bar. It also has an IP68 dust and waterproof rating, which means that it is dust tight and waterproof, submerged up to 3 meters. These brackets are how I will mount my light bar to the bumper bolts. Auxbeam sends a lot of hardware with this kit for different methods of installation. I barely used any of it for my installation. The kit also includes all of the wiring you will need to get your light bar running. To get started, we need to remove the 14mm nuts on the bumper bolts. Once the bumper bolt nuts are removed, you can fit the light bar brackets directly onto the bumper bolts. It might take a little bit of wiggling, especially if your vehicle has been in an accident, as mine previously was. It was at this point that I realized that the brackets I had were too long for my original plan of hiding my light bar behind my bumper grille. I probably could have cut the brackets down and drilled new holes, or I could have ordered different brackets, but patience isn't my strength, so I decided to change my plans. Instead, I decided to go ahead and cut out this lower black plastic piece that would be blocking me from installing the light bar. With the black plastic removed, I could easily finish installing the light bar brackets. With the brackets securely installed, I thought the light bar would go in with ease. Unfortunately, I quickly realized that the Allen key screws that were sent in the kit would be near impossible to get to with how I installed the light bar. A quick trip to Home Depot solved the issue. I picked up the same sized bolt, but with a hex head instead, so I could easily get my socket in there to tighten things up. I also used some locking washers to make sure things didn't wiggle loose while I was driving down bumpy roads. Once the light bar was secured, I could move on to the wiring. I ran the wire from the light bar back behind the driver's side headlight up to some open space behind the battery. The wiring kit comes with a relay that you can easily mount to one of your existing bolts. I chose to mount my relay to the bolt that holds on the fuse box. Once the relay was mounted, I plugged it into the wiring assembly and moved on to connect the power cables to the battery. While making this video, I realized how terrible my battery and terminals looked. I have since cleaned things up under the hood, including new battery terminal connectors, so please don't judge my wiring job here. This was only temporary. The last thing to do before testing the light was to add in the fuse. Once I knew the light was working, I finished things up by wiring the switch through the firewall and zip tying up my excess cable. I planned to get a better switch for the light bar, but I temporarily installed the power switch to the left side of my steering wheel. With everything installed, I just had to wait for it to get dark to see how powerful this light really is. To call this thing bright would be an understatement. I was so impressed with the amount of light that this small 32-inch light bar can emit. The camera here doesn't really do it justice either. My normal headlights, which you see here, are extremely bright LED headlights, the kind that are obnoxiously bright. So, compare that to how much the light bar lights up the road and the trees around. Overall, I've been very impressed with the Auxbeam Lightbar. If you're interested in purchasing one for yourself, check the description for a link to their website. And feel free to comment below if you have any questions about the light bar or how I installed it. See you in the next one.